Hi, I am Ellie Currier, and I have been at Harbor for 2 years now. On September 26, 2012, I was heading home from one of my classes in college. I was changing lanes, and the guy behind me decided to cut me off while I was changing lanes. He went in front of me, slammed on his brakes. My car turned towards oncoming traffic, and I had to swerve. And the last thing that I remember is the song on my radio station, 10,000 Reasons by Matt Redman. What happened next was I did a 180. My car flipped over a guardrail. My arm was completely severed on the scene. My arm was laying on the side of the road as I flipped over 3 times over the dam and landed inches away from the Tennessee River. The guy that I almost hit head on came over, saw my arm, ran down, wrapped me up, and in true form said that I was like, hey, I think I lost my arm. I think you should call 911. So they called 911. They were unable to save my arm and started surgeries and cleanouts. On the last day that I was in the hospital, they told me that we were gonna have to check out, and the real journey and real struggle began. In the hospital, you have the security of all these people taking care of you and all this, everybody's asking you how you are, you have all these medical devices and all this, and then when you leave the hospital, you're faced with reality. When I left the hospital, I was faced with mirrors all around me. The first place that I walked into was my grandparents' house that had a whole room full of windows, and it was nighttime. And I looked at myself and I was like, that's not me. This can't be me, and this cannot be the life that is gonna happen for the rest of my life. So instead of actually dealing with it, I decided that I was just gonna fight and have this inspirational story that God was gonna use, which was great. But I didn't really let God work on my heart. A year later, God took me all the way to Ghana, Africa, and had me face my reality face to face when somebody associated me with the word disability. I had not viewed myself that. In fact, I was actually denied disability by the state several times. So I had not actually come to that terms head on in reality. And I looked at that person dead in the face and was like, I do not have a disability. And they were like, well, no, you can totally do everything. You're able, you're more than able. God has allowed that to happen. And God took me into that room, physically made me ill to where I could not get out of bed. And he made me come to terms with the fact that he is going to conquer this, and I need to let him. I started to actually read the word more, though. I started to actually pray. I started to actually dig into my Bible and actually seek people out that would feed me life, that would feed me truth. And you know what happened? God actually came alive. My heart was softened. My heart was shown that God, even though in Psalms 139 said that he formed me in my mother's womb and I was not formed with one arm, he formed me, and he formed my story, and he formed what was going to happen to me in the womb. So it was just the same. And he knew that all of this was going to happen. It's hard to walk in a public place and have someone physically move away from you by the way that you look. One thing that was incredibly, incredibly difficult that I could not have prepared for was walking into a church and feeling like I couldn't actually show my scars. Since my accident happened in September, it was near winter time, so I was wearing sweaters or things like that. As the weather got warmer, I myself wasn't confident enough to show those things for a while. But when I started to become confident and I started to wear a tank top or short sleeve shirt or whatever. The stares inside the church from people I knew, or people that I knew who loved Jesus, who should accept me, those hurt deep. When I came to Harbor, I actually took off my sweater without even thinking, which was just like groundbreaking. I didn't even notice. I felt so comfortable here. And when I got home, my husband was like, "Did you notice that you took off your sweater?" And I was like, "Yeah, it was getting hot." And I was like, "Wait, no." I have never felt so comfortable in a place that has made me before feel so uncomfortable. And that's only God. God has allowed that healing. In Deuteronomy 7, he talks about how we are his special treasure. And God has allowed me to understand what that means. God, throughout this whole process, I would never wish losing a limb or any of the pain that I go through. I live in chronic pain every single day. My phantom pain, limb pain is there. I have nerves growing all the way inside my body. But God has taught me, and I have actually truly learned and understood what actually joy meant. And that joy meant that I don't have to be smiling. Like, joy meant that I could be so full of what God has done in my heart and in my life, and trust and give me peace, which doesn't mean that everything is gonna go great. It doesn't give me my arm back, but that God is going to redeem it. And God has got an amazing plan. God has given me a wonderful husband who has helped me through everything. God has given me a son who naturally just always comes to this hand, who has been patient with me as I learn how to do everything. That's God. That's what God has done.